Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. If you were following the countdown and you're like, wait, I still have 5 minutes before you're supposed to start. Yeah, it's because I started my countdown timer late. I need to change that, I think. I think I just need a starting soon, and then it'll just not have a countdown timer on it, and then it won't be such a, dialed into, oh, this is how much time is before I hop on, because sometimes it's a little, sometimes it's a lot. And the thing is, when I start that page, I have to start it when there's 10 minutes before, because this is a 10-minute countdown timer, which I think used to be a great thing, because I'm like, oh, that's cool, and it gives me time, and I know how much time is left and everything else. But if I don't start it right on time, it's not like I can adjust that time. It's harder for me to go back and really adjust the time of that countdown timer for that startup screen. I have to go into where it's actually done and reprogram it to be a different time count. It's not like I can say, oh, 5 minutes instead of 10. So I think what I'm going to do is just get rid of the countdown timer and just say starting soon. And then when I start kind of thing. I try to always start it on time at like 11 o'clock, but it's a matter of hitting that countdown timer at the right time. I'm sitting here talking and I'm hoping you hear me. Oh, good, you do. I had to just do a quick check there. So anyway, sorry about that. Just my little Friday morning drama stuff. It wouldn't be wouldn't be shop time without a little drama for me. So that's kind of the way that works. What do we got going on today? It's Friday, right? Episode 53. If you read the title, we're going to be making some shapes today. I'm going to do some semicircles and I'm going to do some triangles, and we're going to put all those things together and make a completed base kind of thing. So that's the goal for the day. I did some work off camera. Did some on Wednesday afternoon after the live stream ended, and then a little bit more yesterday. I didn't want to go too far because I kind of got to a point where I really wanted to, take you along the journey of, completion here. I didn't want to all of a sudden have these steps going on that you're like, well, wait, you went from A to C, and what happened to B? And I don't want to leave B out. So I didn't get too far, but I did do some stuff. I sharpened some tools, made things a little bit easier for me to knock some wood down to size. I will tell you that the figured walnut it doesn't matter how sharp your tools are, figured walnut is a pain in the rear. So that was challenging. And so what are you talking about, Jeff? I just tuned in for the first time and you're confusing me. Sorry. For those who are confused or don't know what I'm talking about, I'm making these. These are bases for sewing machines. I don't want to tread over too much ground, but what I was working on was the lids of these side compartments. So this lid right here, right? And this is kind of like it's grained. It's been book matched, and I don't think I turned my side camera on here. Let me turn this camera on. So this is all book matched walnut, and it's figured wood, and it's got all kinds of stuff going on. Let's see if I can get a better shot of that for you. There you go. So it's really pretty, right? But it's a pain in the rear to plane this stuff, because when you book match something, basically you're taking a piece of wood and splitting it and then gluing the pieces together. The problem is if the grain's going this direction on this way, now it's going this direction on this side. So your grain's running in opposite directions on either side of that seam that you've glued up. And that can create problems if you're trying to run a hand plane or something over there, and you can get tear out pretty easily on there. So I tried my best to get these things down to flush with the sides, and I think I did a pretty good job. Like I said, some of these are a little more figured than others. Let me get this one out here. So this one's pretty figured right here. And you can see where the wood grain just it's pretty crazy looking. Now this will look gorgeous with some oil on there and stuff. This is going to look fantastic. But trying to get this planed down and stuff is really a bit of a pain. The other thing I did off camera was, let me show you on this one. I had a couple of small, like little wormholes in here. So you can see those little dark spots. There's a little spot right there. So those were like wormholes. And what I did was I filled those. I've got some like black CA glue right here. It's a kind of a medium thickness. And so that does a pretty good job of filling any voids. And then I had to sand those down and get them taken care of. So I did all that, and want to become famous, buy followers. Oh my gosh. So hang on, I'm going to jump over to Twitch and see if I can I ban this person? I'm logged in as myself. I don't know why I can't like do this in my chat. I should be able to like ban somebody in there. But I guess I can't. So anyway, I don't know enough about Twitch chat. I'm going to clear the chat and get rid of that. How about that? There we go. They're gone. Gone. What was I saying? They completely took me off my game there. Anyway, I got those filled in and then sanded that down and kind of got those flattened out. And that's pretty much where I stopped, because the next steps going forward are things that I didn't want to leave out. It's just kind of some little kind of handy things to show you. One thing is, you'll notice these bases, and the lids are in here nice, and they fit really well in there, right? But the problem is getting them out can be kind of a chore because there's not a handle, there's nothing to lift them out with or whatever. And the way I fix that is I put a little semicircular cut in here in the top, enough to get your finger in there and lift it out. And it looks pretty nice because right now you have to use your fingernail in the corner and try to pull it out that way. So in order to spare the fingernails, we're going to put some little semicircular holes in there, clean those out, make them look nice. So that's on the menu for the day. That's part one. And part two is we're going to cut a whole bunch of things like this. Let's go over here and you see. So we're going to cut a bunch of things that look like this, little triangular pieces of wood. And these get placed in, let me move this over here and I'll bring this over and show you. These get placed in the corners of the base. So there will be, well, it's really dirty in there. I'll have to clean it out first. But anyway, and this base is actually, hang on, let me get a taller base. That one's kind of a midget base. So this one has like 3-inch sides in there. These are going to fit in the corners, and there'll be 4 of them. I only have 3 right now because these were offcuts from other bases. But anyway, you can see that these go in the corners, and then those in turn support the machine. For those who don't know what I'm doing, they will support the sewing machine that will live on there. I'm just grabbing a sewing machine so you can see. So the sewing machine will sit on those corners in the base like that. I have to be careful. I don't want this to tip because there's not one under this corner. But anyway, that's pretty much what we're doing here. I mean, you can see, I'll be really gentle when I turn this so that the machine sits up nicely in here. We've got a storage compartment in here. It'll have a little thing to pop open. We'll have the corners in there. Those corners will get glued in. Right now, those are just setting on the base bottom. But those base bottoms are not made to support a load. They're just lightly glued around the corners. The corners themselves will actually get glued to the inside and clamped. So they will support all of the load from the sewing machines when these are done. But that looks really nice. Those are almost about perfect size. So I think I'm just going to make more of this size for this particular base. But anyway, I have to measure them. I have to figure out how thick this is. I have to allow for things like this slide plate on the front here. There's a plate on here that has to be able to slide off. And because you need access to underneath to change your bobbins and such. Once again, not a sewer, not a sewing person, just making bases for the sewing machine. So I'm not going to get really technical with you. This is my daughter's machine and it's getting dusty. She won't be happy with me if I get it all gummed up. So I have to be careful with this machine. Anyway, that's kind of what we're into today, is getting those things cut. And the way I do that is typically I have to cut a piece of wood on the table saw. Let me move this out of the way. So I have to cut wood on the table saw that will be in long strips like this. So this is one that from a previous set of machines that I made, and this is some leftover, and we'll use this. We'll cut these down. But these get cut from a piece that looks probably, well, here's one. So we'll take a piece of wood like this, right? And then we'll cut it at a 45-degree angle, and that gives me this piece right here. And then I'll turn the blade 90 degrees, cut this straight off, and now I've got a long triangular piece of wood here, and then I'll cut those into the lengths that I need to fit in the corners. And then I can tip the blade 45 degrees again, cut another piece off here like this. That gives me another strip, turn the blade 90, cut another one, so you can on and on and on. So hopefully I will be able to get enough. I've got 2 of them that are already cut out, and like I said, these are leftovers from other machines. So I've got these right here that were already done. This one, like I said, this one had a strip that got cut and used, but we'll make more out of this piece of wood. The thinner the wood gets, the harder it is to cut these angles and such, and keep your fingers safe. So we will try to do this nice and safely. And then for the walnut ones, I actually have a piece of walnut that is right here. And this actually needs to, If I don't have enough, I might make some out of this. It's already been flattened on one side and flattened on an edge. It has not been run through the planer. If I was going to use this for corners, I would have to plane this down just a little bit. The problem with this stuff is I need a little bit thicker piece of wood because obviously I want this to be large enough in the corner here to support the rounded corners of the machines. So I need a piece of wood that is about, how thick is this? This is almost an inch thick. So I need almost about an inch of thickness to really do a good job in supporting these machines. And it gives me the triangle size. You can see how big those triangles are in there. So it gives me that triangle size that I need to support those machines. So that's what's on the agenda for today, is doing the semicircles for the fingers, for the finger holes. I have 4 of these that need the semicircles. I have 8 bases altogether though that will need corner supports. So those are going to be a little bit more of a chore because like I said, I have 8 of them altogether. There's 4 bases that have the side compartment, and then 4 bases that are just stop right here and are just the basic compartment for the machine, but they all need corners. So that's kind of where we're at for today. So let's go ahead and do what I would call the simple stuff, which is the circles, the semicircles. They're pretty simple. Not a lot to do there. Before I get started, let me just kind of remind you that I am on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, all simulcast. So if you're on one of those and you want to say hi, hop into the chat and throw in a comment or questions or whatever. And I will do my best to monitor that and respond to you. If you ask a question, I'll repeat the question so that if anybody's on a different chat platform, like if you're on Twitch and you ask a question, I'll repeat it again so that the people on Facebook and YouTube can see. And yeah. All right, so what do we need to do to make semicircles? I mean, I don't get overly complicated with this stuff. I could get little templates out and different things. What I do is I fall back once again to my lucky nickel. Now this nickel that I have is the same nickel I used to round the corners of these bases, or these base lids, because they needed to fit inside of these radiused corners left over from the rabbiting bit. And I find that a nickel is pretty much the exact same radius, or pretty close to the same radius as that rabbiting bit, and it works really well. So that's what I generally use. Well, to go and do the finger holes, I kind of do the same thing. I was like, well, that's about, my finger. I got kind of big, giant paws here. So my finger would fit pretty well in a hole made by this. I don't need the entire circle. I just need a semicircle, a half of a circle, if you will. And to do that, what I need to do is figure out, okay, well, this is my upside. You need to figure out which side is going to be your upside. I mean, it helps. It's not, yes, the semicircle hole will look the same on each side. So that point doesn't really matter, but I've already fitted this to the base with this side up. So I know that this is the side I want to do this on for right now. So I get my nickel, I get my pencil, and I don't know if it's any easier for you to see me doing this way, maybe a little bit. And all I'm going to do is take that pencil and draw the outline of this nickel, but I'm going to try to center the nickel. I've got a center line here on my base. So actually I've already sanded this a little bit, but I'm going to just kind of lightly draw my center line in here just to kind of keep it for me. I kind of put the circle of the nickel about halfway. Actually, if I use Monticello on the back, it helps me to get things squared up and even here. And I go down about halfway on the nickel, give or take, and center it on that line. And then all I'm going to do is draw the outline of that nickel on here so that it gives me something to cut in the bandsaw so you can see There is my semicircle right there, and that's just all it is. It's just going to give me that little bit so I can put my finger in there and lift this lid out. Now, here's the thing. On my bandsaw, I could go and put a really small blade on there, like a, I don't know, like an 1/8 inch blade, or maybe a little bit larger, like a 1/4 inch blade. I've got a large blade on there that I use for resawing right now, and that's fine. I'm not going to turn any radii on here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to nibble down to that line in little straight cuts until I get almost all this wood kind of hogged out. And then I will clean everything up when I'm done with my spindle sander. So I found that to be the most efficient way of doing this. It's like I said, there's other ways to do these things, but for me, that's the most efficient way. Let me get this out of the way here. This is my little fan. I've got a couple of fans blowing in my shop because, once again, we're just having fun with really hot temperatures in my hometown here. So it's only about 80 degrees in the shop right now, 79.9 degrees. That's bonus days. Because let me tell you, by this afternoon, it'll be in the mid to high 80s here. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the 30s, and really stinking hot. All right, let me get my remote control. I need ear protection, and I actually have a camera set up so you can watch this. There we go. I mean, it's not the best view. I apologize. I can't move the cameras. I can't just put a camera right here. I could, but then it has to get back to the computer and stuff. It's a little bit hard for me to do that. So I try to zoom in, get the angles for you to see what I'm doing. Not always able to accomplish that, but I try. All right. But I will give you a close-up to show you what this looks like when I'm done cutting it. I'm just going to show you a little close-up. So to start with, I make a bunch of little cuts like this. There you go. You can see those. So I make a bunch of little cuts like that. Now I'm going to use that same saw and clean those cuts up. So give me a second. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, and if I take a piece of sandpaper really quickly here and just kind of clean the fuzz, you can see that, whoop, let me get it there, there you go. You can see that now we're pretty close to having this one done. I'm just gonna clean that out on the spindle sander in a minute. But let's go ahead, and here's a look in the box. You can see what that lid does now. Sits in there and just gives a little place to pull that out. So, I mean, it's not, I could do really fancy handles and stuff, but to me, the big thing is to keep it flush, because then it's a nice flat work surface. So I'm always trying to keep that flush. When I first started making the side compartments, I actually put little lids on them, or little handles on the lids, and I didn't like that as much because I felt like it was, it just interfered with the ability to use that as a work surface. So I try to keep that nice and flat. Anyway, let me go ahead and I'm going to draw the semicircles on the rest of these, and then I can just take them over and chew it all out at the same time, and that'll make life go a little faster here. I mean, I'm not exact, but I just try to get this thing centered on that center line and about halfway down the nickel here, just to make a little semicircle. There's another semicircle on there, if you can see that. There you go. So I just try to keep these centered. The other thing, now what you do need to figure out is, okay, which is it up this way or is it up this way? You need to figure out which end is up for the most part. At least I do, because I always like to have the finger hole at the top. Now, I guess you could flip it around the other way. I mean, like I said, because it's flat and sits flush inside that opening, it doesn't really matter, but to me it does. So I always think that the finger hole goes at the top of the compartment lid or furthest away from you, but that's just me. All right, I'm gonna get this one drawn on here, and then we've got one more, and then we can just take all of these over to the bandsaw and get them cut and take care of all of that at one time. Yep. And that's kind of like my way I like to do things, is just kind of, it's all part of batching things. So if you've got the same process over and over again, get it set up so that you can do things in a repeated fashion, and kind of makes better use of your time. Okay, these are all drawn and they all look good. So we can head over to the machine. Now I'm just gonna do one of these at a time, because I don't want to get them mixed up. They belong in specific bases, because the way I do these, they're flattened to the base. And so this base over here might be a little bit shallower or deeper than this base, and then the lid would not fit. So I just want to make sure I don't get these things mixed up. But I am going to go ahead and cut these one at a time. And then we'll get on to the next part of this, which is the sanding. Okay, back to my camera view. There we go. And we are good to go. Okay, so that is the third one of the walnut, and we're in good shape there. So the next thing I'm going to do, awake? Oh, it is. The next thing we need to do is we need to kind of smooth those out because they do leave some rough. I'll show you right here. So they leave a rough interior in there, and you can see what that looks like, which doesn't feel great. And it's hard to get a regular piece of sandpaper in there. So in order to get those smooth, what I'm going to do is pull out my spindle sander. Let me get this out of the way and get this set up over here. Let me move my pencil and my nickel out of the way. So this is just a regular old spindle sander, round tube, goes up and down, spins around, blah, blah, blah. It's really simple. This one's made by Triton. There's a lot of these on the market. I think they're all pretty much made by the same company. If you go and look at their designs, they're almost all the exact same design and style and everything else. I mean, there are some high-end spindle sanders. This is not one of those, but it is a very handy thing to do, especially if you do things that are curved or round or whatever, you need to do some sanding. This gives you a lot more flexibility to do that. I think I have a camera for this one too. There we go. All right, let me grab, well, I have one here already. So basically all I do is I put this in here. I still have a little bit of pencil line right around the inside here. And all I'm gonna do is try to sand that down to this pencil line and get it cleaned up. And my remote here, let's get this going. And just to give you a close-up view, looks like that now. It's nice and clean inside there. No more of those rough lines. It feels really smooth. And that's all we're after. So it's pretty quick. You'll see me like come in straight with it. That's just to get the initial shape done. And then I kind of just move it up and down like this, just to kind of make sure I'm getting all the angles done. And it just kind of rounds it just a little bit, which feels good when you've got your finger in there. And that is all there is to that. It's really nice because you know, the dust collection goes in the back and it does a really nice job of downdrafting all of that dust off of there. So it keeps it out of the air. But let's get rid of that for a minute. And yeah, it's a pretty simple process, but to me, it just adds a little bit of something to the lids to not have to, like I said, to not have to have your fingers stuck down inside there or with your fingernail trying to pull that lid out and things like that. It's just a nice little touch. And a lot of times that's all it is when I make these things, is just like, what can I add to this? What nice little touch can I add to it? Pardon me, when I move this off to the side, I store that under a cabinet. I'm not going to put it away right now, but so that's kind of what I look at, is like, what can I add to these to make it just a nice little touch? So you can see right here, get this camera right here. So there is the finger hole at the top, and it's just a nice little way to open that lid. Gives you nice access, but it still maintains the flushness of the lid, so you're not interfering with, if you wanted to use this as a work surface, you're not interfering with that ability to do that with a knob that sits right there. So nice and easy access. There we go, nice and flush. And they're all the same, so there you go. So same thing with the walnut and with the sycamore. And like I said, those are the ones that I have 4 of them. So they all have those lids. Now they all have the, oops, that one's turned backwards. There we go. So they've all got their finger holes now. And we could turn our attention to making the corner pieces. Because like I said, the corner pieces are kind of what's really important for these things, because that is what the machine sits on. You need that support in the corners to set these machines on there. You need that support to be firmly glued in, and you need it to be at the right height in all the corners to really give a good platform for that sewing machine. Those sewing machines are heavy. They weigh, depending, you know, some of them are kind of light, but most of them I'd say are between 10 to 15 pounds of weight. It depends on the machine. Like the smaller ones, they're probably 8 to 10 pounds. The larger ones, 10 to 15, depending on the machine. So they can get pretty bulky and pretty heavy. And you want to make sure you've got good, solid support in the corners for them to, you know, not only show them off, but to make sure that they don't come crashing through and that they are usable, not just for display purposes, but if you want to sew on them, I want them to be solid so that you can sew on these as well. So that means we need these nice, strong corner supports made out of these triangular pieces of wood. Like I said, I've already got some here. The easiest thing I can do right now is, because I've got that piece of oak that is already quartered or already cornered, there's already been a 45 run through there. Let me change a camera view over to, sorry, I have to kind of do this to, I only have 4 cameras and they can't look everywhere. So I'm gonna swing one camera over to my table saw here. There we go. So that you can get a better view of what I'm doing on the table saw. Okay, I think that is my table saw view now. It is. And since I have this piece right here with, like I said, with the corner already cut, water. I had water in a cup here, little tiny bit of water from when I was sharpening my blades, the water stone. So let's see, let's go ahead and raise this blade up, first of all, to a height that will clear that. Perfect. Now what we need to do is, since we've got one 45 cut on here, I need to just cut this straight up and down. And I need to find, I'm going to put a line on here. Let me grab a pencil and a square just to draw a nice line on there for myself that I can use to line this up with the saw blade. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on here, find my top corner of that 45, that top angle, and I'm just going to strike a line And that's just going to give me a visual reference to line this up. I could try to do it, but it's kind of hard because if you don't have that line there and you're trying to figure out where it's going to impact the wood, well, this is just a nice, easy way to do it. Let's see. Right about there, looks good. Because the other thing is you're trying to make these nice even angles. You don't want an acute and an obtuse side or whatever. You want your angles to be, your acute angles to be the same. I'm going to look and see what I've got for, okay, that will not work. That's kind of iffy for me there. Is this flat? Let me make sure it's flat. That's flat. I'll tell you what, hang on. I have another gripper that is probably more appropriately set up for this. It's a little bit wider and has an offset piece that kicks it out from the fence. So you can see I've got this added piece on here, which basically this is the same thing. It's just that this does not have that piece. So this offsets it from the fence by about 1 inch, which gives me the ability to kind of clear it this way. I can have more surface on the actual wood like this, and then I can lower this guide right here to keep it nice and flat. And this allows me a lot of control as I push this through. So I love these things, they're great. Sometimes you look at them and go, that's a little over-engineered. Yeah, maybe a little bit sometimes. But I tell you what, man, they do a really good job. And it's all about keeping your fingers safe. All right, I still need to get this set up. I need to put my dust collection in the back of the saw, so I'm going to do that now. And now the thing is, we're going to have to make adjustments to this saw blade as we progress, because we're going to have to cut another 45 in there, and then straighten it back up and cut another 90-degree angle there. Let me do this. I need power, and then we're good to make some cuts here. So let me plug this in and get my remote for the dust collection. Okay, ears. So let's go ahead and cut this one strip off here. That gives us one triangular strip. And then we will go forward with making another one. Okay, so that gave us our nice little triangular piece of wood here now, right? And now we need another one. Well, we can't just, if I cut another piece off there, it's just going to be a rectangular piece. So we need triangular. So we need to tip this blade now. We need to get this at 45 to get this same effect on here. What time is it? 11:40. Tell you what, give me just a second. I have to run and do something really quick. I will be right back. I have to check something. So give me just 1 minute of your time to punch out and check something, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for that. I had to go check something in the house, and you know, sometimes Life just doesn't wait. All right, now, here's the thing. This is what we call a zero clearance blade guard or blade guide guard, whatever you want to call it on here, which is very close to the cutting surfaces on the sides of that blade. But it doesn't allow me to tip it. So I have to remove this blade guard. And I have to put a new one in. Now this is the default one that came with the machine. You can see how much wider this opening is right here, which is fine for what I need to do. But I don't use it all the time because there's too much gap in here and there's too many, if I cut thin strips, they'll fall down inside, then they go inside the little bottom area and it's hard to get them cleaned out. So I use my zero clearance fence or guide, whatever you want to call that, most of the time. But this one, if I want to tip that blade, I need those extra gaps on the side in order to let that blade clear over. The other thing that I need to do, I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment, is I need to use this. This is a digital angle gauge. And it just allows me to tip my blade and read an angle on there so I get it very accurate. Now I have to raise my blade up a lot to do this. So what I'm going to do, depending on how I'm going to cut this, which is probably about right here. So I need to make sure that when this runs through, it's sitting on an area. So I'm going to zero it onto this area so that I've got an established zero level, ground level. Like this says it's 0.3 degrees right now. Well, that's not going to work. So I'm going to zero it right here. Then I'm going to put this and mount it to the blade. You don't want it sitting up here on the actual cutting blades on the teeth, because that will throw the angle off. So you want it to be on the flat of the blade. And then you can start tipping until you hit your 45-degree mark. Now my machine, I mean, it has a little angle guide thing on the side here, but it's not super accurate. It's close. It's not super accurate. So it gets me close enough. Like if I just need close enough, I can get that. But okay. So that says 45 degrees right there. So that's my 45-degree angle. And now what I need to do, remember how I drew that straight line going up so I knew where to cut? Well, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to draw a 45 on here if I can find the tool that I'm going to use. So I'm going to draw a 45 on here so that I know, ow, something fell over, sorry. So that I know where to place that cutting line on there. So I'm going to use this. This is a, I don't know what it is because it's written in Japanese. But it's basically a saddle so that you can continue a line this side and go across, but it also has a 45 on here. So I can take that 45 and match it up on here to the edge and locate my pencil and draw me a line right here. It shows me where that cut mark needs to happen. So now I've got a 45, let me see if I can show you there. So you see that little 45 on there? I can then place this and find the teeth and where they will impact that so that I get a cut right on that line. Now here's the thing too. That blade guard, or that blade is way higher than it needs to be. So I'm going to lower this down. So I don't need to cut all the way through there like that. So just about like that is perfect. Now I need to see where it's going to impact on here. So line up my line just to the left side of the blade. I'm going to bring the fence over, get this lined up, and that will hopefully give me a perfect cut. Now I need to figure out where my blade is going to be here. I don't want my blade getting hit. I don't want it hitting anything here. So Make sure that all of the pads are clearing when I use this. So make sure that I'm going to clear, and I am. So I'm going to clear the blade with this. And that's why, like I said, I really like this because it has this addition on the side. You can take this off, but I usually keep two of them set up, one like this, and then I set this one up like this so that if I need that extension by an inch away from that fence to clear the blade with my little gripper things here, this is great. And it has a nice flat, wide surface here that I can use to, as more, it just gives more support so you're not tipping. All right, so the 45 is set. We're gonna go ahead and make another cut here, make another triangular strip. Now, as this gets closer and closer, you can see it gets harder to get these angles because you run out of wood to run along the fence here and keep safe. Make sure I'm clear of that piece of wood. So just to keep myself safe in case anything moves and catches that blade and throws out, I usually keep my hand up on top like this and then turn it off and hold it there until it stops. And what I find is there's a little piece of wood that doesn't get cut right here. And if that, for whatever reason, the table shakes or whatever and it catches, it can send this out. And because I kind of stand right behind it here, yeah, so basically I just keep myself safe, keep the blade guard down on there, and then we're good to go. So there's another triangular piece right here. So now we've got two, right? As far as how much wood I need, I have two of these red oak bases, which this wood is a match for that. You can see this is really nice matching wood because it's obviously same species. I only need about 10.5 inches, give or take. These are going to work out to be about 2.5 inches tall when I cut them down to size. And obviously I need 4, which gives me 10 inches. There's also a kerf of, when you cut them, there's an 1/8 inch kerf. So 3 cuts, so 3/8. So basically 10 3/8, but I give myself a little fudge room. So I need at least 10.5 inches. But these are much longer than 10.5 inches. I think these are closer to 15. So it gives me a little extra room to play with there. All right, now we've got, just like when we started, we've got another piece of wood that has a triangular shape on here. We're gonna flip this over, cut this, and now we've got a third piece that we can use, all right? Which means we need to move the fence out of the way, get the digital guide back here. We're going to, I'm going to extend the table back out, put this on here. It should be set at 45, and it is. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is raise this back to a 0 or 90 degrees. I think it'll be 90 degrees is what that's going to be. You could also zero it out on the blade and take it back to 45 if you wanted to. I don't know why you would do that, but I'm going to get it close, and then I'm going to change the blade guard, and I'm going to re-zero it. There's a reason for doing that, because if the blade guard sits a little bit differently than this blade guard, I want them to be exactly 90 degrees to the blade guard that's inserted. All right, let me, 80, there we go, 90 degrees. So that's 90, supposedly. We're gonna take this blade guard out, put the other one back in. And then make sure that says 0. Then 0.1-ish, it's close, it's very close. So we're gonna leave it there at 0.1. I'm gonna lower this down. I don't need that much blade, obviously, now. I'm gonna lower this down so I get the right height. And then the same thing as I did last time, I'm going to get my ruler here. Try to figure out the best place to, there we go. Well, I might use my saddle. Let's use the saddle. It's nice and flat. And I'm just going to draw another line here. So get this lined up right on that top edge. Draw a line so I know, well, hang on, yeah. It's going to make sure this is the side I'm going to feed through the saw so I can see where to line it up. But make a nice line right there, another nice straight line. You can see that. Flip it over. It's going to run through like this. Now I got to remember, I need that line to be on the left side, as I'm looking at it, of the saw blade, because that connects all the way up to this corner right here. If I did it this side, well, that would give me a lopsided triangle. So, all right, let's bring this fence over, get this lined up, and then we will. Looks pretty good right there. I'm going to set up my blade guard, which I think right here, we're going to use this one. And then I'll lower this down for support. There we go. Okay, so we're good to go with this one. I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And hang on, I'm just trying to find my remote. Okay, so that's 3 of those, right? I have 2 white oak boxes. The thing is, I can use these in some of the other bases too. It doesn't have to be an oak base for me to use oak supports. The oak is actually really super strong, and so if I use that in some of the other bases, that's fine. I also have these right here, so that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 to work from. Maybe 6. Let me hang on a second. Let me get my ruler here, because what I said I need like 10.5 inches, right? So if this was 15, yeah, I would get like 1 extra one out of here. So that would give me two extra ones. Not really enough to work with. Just to kind of show you what I'm talking about on the kneading wood, if I drew out another 45 here, this would not leave me very much. I could get one more 45 out of this. I could do it, but it would really start to get sketchy, I think, in terms of supporting this wood. I'm going to draw it on here just to show you. So here's my 45. So I only have this much surface right here that would actually ride on the tabletop itself. And that is, that makes me a little nervous. I could do it and probably do it safely, but I just like having a wider wood surface to run through there. It's a nice flat platform. I think what I want to do is flatten this. I want to put this through my planer and use 3 strips of this. 2, 3. I want 3 strips of this for the walnut. I really would like to match those. I mean, I could, like I said, I could use this lighter colored stuff in here, but I think that the dark one will look better. At the end of the day, you do see the corners of them, so if it matches the wood color a little bit more, I think that would be better. But I'm not really set up to do that, so I think what I need to do, oh, there we are. Have a good day, buddy. My son popped in here and just about scared the whiz out of me. I think what I need to do is I'm going to get the planer out. Let me switch cameras here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get the planer out and just shave off the rough part of the wood here. Like I said, it's already flattened on one side, so that makes life easy. So what I need to do is flip top here really quickly. So I apologize for, I wasn't necessarily planning on this part, but it shouldn't take too long. Ugh, what the heck? Oh, don't lean on it. There we go. I do love this cart though. It is super handy to have something like this. Let me just flip it around. And my little handle goes back up on here. Put these back in. All these back into their slots. And there we go. Super handy configuration. If you've got a small shop, you need to maximize your space, man. Doing things like this is really nice. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but if you look online, you'll see it, where it's a flip top workbench, where the workbench actually has 2 or 3 positions, 2 or 3 stations built into the workbench itself, where it's flat on one side and then you can flip it and actually have tools that flip up on top of your workbench. Very cool idea. I don't need that, but I could see where that would be super handy as well. All right, I'm gonna get my piece of wood here. I'm gonna push this over a little bit here. I need to get this set up. I need to get my dust collection because, yeah, definitely need dust collection on this. Definitely need dust collection. And I'm gonna get my flat running board here. I'm not looking to make this a certain depth, like a certain thickness, like I am when I'm making the wood for the actual sides and stuff of this. All I want to do is take this rough surface off and get it flat. So I don't think I'll have to take too much off of here. I'm going to lower this down to the point where it should start making an impact right away. Right about there. Okay. And I think that's about all we need. Oh, I need power for that. It doesn't run unless it's plugged in though. I have found that to be the case, that most of these tools will not work if they're not plugged in. Okay. And before I get started, let me just check peanut gallery here. And okay. Wow, you're either not here or very quiet today. But that's okay. I'll just keep talking in case you're watching this later. Okay, that's pretty much, that's all we needed. Like I said, I don't need this to be like, bring it down to a certain thickness. I just need it to be flat on the top. And now we can go ahead and check. I'm going to check these edges just to make sure that they're nice and square. I believe they are. So what I can do is cut a, come over here. I can cut a really thin, straight strip right off of this edge just to make sure that it is running nice and parallel to this flat edge. And that would give us enough. Then we'll switch the blade over to 45 and go from there. Now I have to kind of set things up again here. So let me put the dust collection back. I didn't have to move the power because I used a different power cord for that one. So all I need to do is put the power back here, or put the air hose back. And now we can trim this off and then Ooh, that's really close. I'm just gonna do a little love tap there. Okay, we're gonna trim this, get this side lined up here, and then we'll do the 45. So I ran it through twice because it just didn't quite cut one edge, and I was like, well, then it's not square. Now it's square. I am a little concerned about this little knot hole right here, but you know what? We'll work with it. We'll just take it as it comes. So we have to switch blade guards again. Back to our 45 blade guard right here. Oop. We're going to go back and zero this sucker out. So I'm going to get down here, turn this on to set it to 0. I'm going to raise this up to the point where it's beyond the teeth. And then we take it back to 45. Getting warm in here again. It's like, what is it, 80, almost 82 in here. Ugh. I would be so happy with, like, I don't know, 78, 79. Because the thing is, I know it's just going to keep getting warmer in here, which kind of stinks. Ah, dang it, 0.1. Come on, we want perfection. Give us perfect. There it is, 45.0 degrees. If you don't have one of these, I think Wixley makes one. This one's made by Capri. There's a couple different companies that make them. They're super handy. I use mine all the time, and I would highly recommend one if you're doing things where you have to have known and established angles. You're trying to adjust tools and things like that. Like I could take this, and because it's magnetic, I can stick it on the blade of my bandsaw. I can just stick it on the bandsaw blade, zero it out, and then put it on the table, and then adjust my table so that it reads 90 degrees to this thing. So it's really just super useful for stuff like that. All right, I've got my line drawn here. I'm going to lower this blade down because obviously I don't need that much blade to cut this piece of wood. I need about that much blade. And then I'm going to find out where that blade is going to intersect this piece of wood right here. Bring my fence over. And a love tap here. That looks pretty good right there. Okay. And then the other thing is, let me make sure, I think this one will work. Looks like it's set up okay. All right, let's make another cut here. Now, with the exception of this little chip, which I might put some super glue in here to solidify this thing before I do anything with it. This is, how long is this? This is almost 17 inches, which means I can cut 2 of these and I should be able to get everything I need out of 2 of them. Fingers crossed. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the way it's going to work out, but that's what we hope for. All right, I'm going to do one more this way. Cut this straight up and down. So we go back and forth on this. Just move this over. Put our thing on here again. Now it's still on, so it should still be calibrated to its correct 45 degrees. It is. So we're going to bring this back down. Back up, I guess would be the appropriate word. Back up to 0 or 90. It's actually 90. Okay. Really? There it is. Okay. And I might just leave this on the way it is at the moment. I think I'll be okay. I'm going to draw my straight line here with the saddle so I can line this up. Want it in the right spot. Okay, I've got a nice pencil line on there. We're going to get this lowered down and then lined up with that pencil mark. There. Okay, that should be good. Think back to this one. Ooh, that's really close, but it should clear. Close, but should clear. Okay. Here we go. All righty. Now I am going to, before I go any further, I am going to super glue these. So I'm going to go over to the workbench here and I'm going to grab this other one as well. And I'm going to put some super glue in them because I want them to be stabilized. I don't want to, let me see, I'm going to use, I think I'll use the thick stuff, but I have some spray here that'll keep it from running everywhere. Oh, take these ears off my head because that's not fun. All right. So I'm going to bring these back over here. I'll change the camera for you so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And what I'm doing is I've got, well, let me show you what I'm looking at here. So I've got a little crack right here from a knot. So there's a knot. And it kind of goes all the way through to here. And I know that if I start cutting these off in pieces, it's going to intersect that knot in some place. And there's another one right here. So you can see that little knot area. If I stabilize this with super glue, then I have a much better chance of it not splitting in a place where I don't want it to, which is kind of the whole point. I have to get my... Let me get my little needle here, hang on. There's a little area, some of the little wood in the knot here. I'm just going to pick some of this dead wood out of here and clean this out so that the super glue has somewhere to go. And I'm going to use this same stuff that I used on the sycamore thing because it's a medium. So it's a little thicker. It's not just going to run right through. I mean, I could use the thin set on the little crack area. Actually, I might do that. But see, I've got some voids right here in some larger areas, which would really benefit from having the thicker glue in there. I'm going to get a piece of paper towel, put this on because I don't want to get super glue all over my top here. And the other thing is I could go ahead and just try to cut another strip off of that piece of, but here's the thing, I would have to cut another triangle, and this is getting really thin, and I really don't like them when they're that thin, trying to cut those triangular pieces out of there. So in order to keep my little digits safe, I can actually use these to prop up the side here if I need to. That kind of works, right? And so what I have is the super glue right here. And then I have Instant Bond Accelerator. So this is accelerator for that. So if you spray it on there, it like instantly dries the super glue. I'm also going to get the thin. I think I'm going to use both. So I've got some thin set here. And I'm going to use the thin set in the areas where it's just like a hairline crack. And then I'll use the thicker stuff where there are the voids. And I think that's probably my best strategy for this. So for right here, and the thin stuff really runs into the little cracks and crevices and such. So it does a really good job. So I'm going to put this in these thin areas here. If my glue comes out. It's the only problem with this stuff. It's like the little nozzles that like to get clogged. Really? Let's see if I can unclog this nozzle right here. There we go. All right, and then dry this off because I don't want super glue on my needle. It's a big giant industrial needle. I use it for so many things. All right, let's put a little super glue in here. And this stuff will just pour right in that hole right there. And all we're looking to do is stabilize this piece of wood, right? So I'm going to hit it with a little of this. And now this glue that was on top won't stick to my fingers, which is great. It's still inside, but won't stick to my fingers. Now on this side, I think I need the thicker stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and get that out here. And use the thicker stuff. I can still use that, and just so you can see, that thin stuff ran all the way out this side over here. I put it in here, it came all the way out over here. That's how that thin stuff just really, really works its way through. It is super thin. But this stuff is thicker. So I'm going to put it down in the little hole here and in the void. And then I can sand this off if I need to, which I will sand this off. But I can spray this on the top here. Hang on a second. Let me get a little bit more in the void. I'm trying to fill this. So that is set on top. I'm going to fill up the void on this side a little bit. Like I said, if I can just stabilize it, then it's fine. And maybe I can work around this little crack area when I go to cut the lengths. But if I can't, I don't want to have to deal with that later. I'd rather deal with it now. So let me fill it up right here. And then give it a little spray. Okay, and now this is going to sit around and dry for a while, but you can see that what I've done is it doesn't look really pretty right now, but remember, these are little pieces that are going to be set in the corners. If I can get 2.5 inches off of this end, I just don't want this thing snapping on me while I'm doing this. My thought is though, so let's measure this out, right? From this end, and I still haven't squared this corner up. So I actually have to square up this corner right here. So I'm probably going to lose at least 1/16 of an inch on this corner, but let's just look at it and see. So I need, what did I say, 10 3/8 inches, right? So 10 3/8 inches puts me right here. I know you can't see that line, but I can. So 10 3/8 inches goes to right here. Then I'm going to need 2.5 more on this side of that. So I have to measure, well, I have to start 1/8 of an inch actually. I should have gone, because I have to allow for saw kerf. All right, so I'm going to measure from this line. I'm going to measure 2.5. 1, 2.5. Puts me, so 2.5 inches puts me right here. Okay, so as we're dealing with it, 2.5 inches puts me right here. Okay, which is above that cut. Now, do I have 2.5 inches below there? I don't know. Let's see. I will just barely clear 2.5 inches. So if I am very careful and really am very conservative and careful with my cuts, I should be able to avoid this section. But that being said, I'd rather be safe. Now this one, I don't know if I'm going to get that 2.5 inches out of it. Yeah, see, this one extends down into that just a little bit. So I certainly want to get at least some CA working in here. At least a little CA working in this part right here to stabilize this. Because, like I said, and it's seeping through, so I know that it's good right there. So it went all the way through. And then I can hit this with the spray. And then that kind of instantly dries that stuff. Ooh, smoking. Ooh, and foaming. So it definitely interacted with it. And then what I will do, that's already crusty hard right there, by the way, kind of crystallized and is hard. What I will do is sand this down, lightly sand it to remove the exterior stuff, like this crusty stuff and everything. But that does give me a really good good work surface now. This one, like I said, I don't really need to worry about the void so much on this one. It wasn't as big as the other one. But what I did want to do was make sure that that I had at least a little bit of glue in there to solidify that piece. Okay, which one's, there we go. So this is my light one. And the black one. So this is Starbond. Really excellent products. So I got a whole bunch of this. This is their super fast thin, and they're black medium thick. So that's what I got for those. And what's dinging on my phone here? Shop the ultimate something or other, Newegg, blah blah blah, whatever. But while these are curing, if you will, we can set them aside, and we can move on to cutting, measuring and cutting the ones that we do have now. So this will give me 3 for the walnut bases. Let me get my words right, please. But we need to look at all the other ones that we've got. We've got other bases. Oh, it's stuck to that a little bit. Throw this away so I don't get glue on my fingers. So we've got other bases that are going to need those corners cut, and we've got the material to do those. So let me grab some of those other bases here. And especially I'm going to grab those. Let me start off with a couple of the oak bases right here, because we did cut that oak. It looks really nice. We've got these right here. And I'm knocking the glue over. Thank goodness I put the lids on them. That would have been a mess. All right, so I've got these right here. Now, the nice thing is I have these little pieces that are already cut from other base projects. And these were actually too short, but they're actually just right for these, I think. So I'm going to clean out the base real quick and get all the dust out so we can measure these. Let me get my thing here. Okay, I did not just win friends in the spider community, I can tell you that, because I just evicted a few of them. Let me check and see if these are the right height. And I can do that with that machine that I have in here. I'm going to set these in here. I know it's only 3 of them, but if the machine sits in here nicely, then I can use that as the template for the height that I need to cut for these other ones. So let's try this one in here. See how that fits. That, wow, is a very nice fit. What do you think? Look good? It's a pretty good fit right there. There's nothing in this corner, so this corner would raise up just a hair. But that's a really good fit. So I'm gonna say that is my height. Now I will check each one of these bases because each one is a slightly bit different. And I don't wanna leave myself with corners that are too short, because then when the machine sits in there, you can't move the slide plate, which means you have to lift the machine out. This is perfect. What do I have for length on this? I'm going to set that with my multi-mark here, if I can, and get this to the exact height. And that's what we will use to cut. So this is 2 and 9/16? No, 7/16. 2 and 7/16. So 2 and 7/16 seems to be the wiener. We do need a new camera angle though, don't we? Definitely need a new camera angle. I am all over the shop today, just zipping here and there, but I want to make sure that you have angles for everything we're doing. So let me zippy zoom in here. Lock this down. All right, we are locked in there. I got to grab the power, and we're going to need the dust collection for all of this. And let's hook up the power. Let's grab the dust hose and slide this whole thing over here. I have to kind of move the whole dust collection thing to get it to fit and stretch. All right. Go. Scrap wood can go in my scrap wood box. This is my burn box down below there, which is getting full. I need to burn some stuff. I actually have a couple of extra little corner pieces here. These are too long, but I'm going to stick them to the side because if I need them, they are there just in case, if I need to cut them down, if I have something messed up. I'm going to grab one of these oak right here. I'm going to trim the edge off just to make sure that this is square and flat. So I'm just going to give it a really quick trim. And then we will go ahead and measure that first one and get it cut. All right, let me switch you over. Camera switching right here. I think that was number 2 we had on there. And oh, I do need my, I don't know where I put it. There it is, the remote. Need the remote. Okay, I got a little chip out there. Not crazy about that, but it's all right. So now what I'm going to do is use my multi-mark right here. I'm going to draw a line that should be the right length using this edge. And this is the edge I just cleaned up right here, so I know that's nice and square. Okay. So we're going to cut our first one. Get lined up on here. Okay, I think we look good there. All right, let's come back and make some cuts here. And I'm just going to do this. It's not really holding anything down. It just kind of presses against here and holds this against the backstop a little bit. Keeps it from kicking out. Let me check this. Oh, hang on. I don't need this sliding now. Not quite perfect. That looks perfect. All right, let's cut one. I say that. Now what I will do with this particular one right here is clean off the fuzz. And I'm going to check it against this one right here. And they are exactly the same size. So this was, let me see, this one right here was the one that we measured off of, and this one's the one we just cut. So freshly cut. So they are the same size. So now I'm going to use this as my measuring stick for the ones to come after it. And actually what I need is that little bit of sandpaper just to clean off the fuzz, because the fuzz can make for an inaccurate measurement. So I put this back in here like this. I'm going to stick the one we just cut right on top of it. I'm going to line up the back side so that it is exactly flush with this. And I'm just going to feel it with my finger until it feels like one piece of wood where they come together. Then I'm going to lower my blade down and push until it just touches that tooth. And that's how I know I'm in the right spot. But shift it just a tiny bit, hang on. And some people will set up a stop or something. I don't like to do that. I just like to use the piece that I previously cut, or a masterpiece, if you will. Really good. And I'm just going to keep going now. And should be able to get these knocked out pretty quick. Okay, that gives us 4. Now what I would do is come back over here to the base, and I'm going to get these little off-cut ones out. I'm going to put these in, and then we will do a quick measure to make sure that we are good. And by measure, I mean we're going to put the machine in here and check it out. And there we go. That is awesome. Slides open up. Slides open up. I don't know if you can see that. So there you go. You can see that there's a slide plate right here. And that slide plate opens up. The one in the back also opens up. That's what we want. So this one is good. And now we just kind of rinse and repeat for the rest of them. Now, I will tell you that they're probably the same size because these were all cut the same. So what I can do is take these 4 that I've just verified in this base. I'm going to move them over to this one. If it fits in here, I'm going to cut 4 more the exact same length. I'll use one of these as my master. And then we knocked out 2 of them really quickly. So let's test it in here. And see, and the other thing I'm looking for is it tipping or wobbling or anything? It's not. I've got clearance for my plates. Okay, so these are exactly the size I need. So I'm going to cut 4 more exactly like it, which means I'm going to grab this other piece or my next piece of oak here. And I'm going to clean off one edge to give it that nice squared edge. And then I'll use one of these as a master for that. Ooh, it's getting warm in here. Hang on, I need to turn my fan on. I'm going to grab one of my lovely little fans here because, whew, getting warm in here. All right. Clean this up. I'm going to grab one of these as the master. I'm going to clean this edge off. This way. Turn this on. All right, so that is both of these oak cabinets done. I'm going to check this one again. I mean, it doesn't matter which one they go in because they should be exactly the same. All right, should be, but I'll check it nonetheless, just to be sure. Grab our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. See that one? That's a little tall right there, or a little short. But I'm going to flatten this out just a little bit, so I think we'll be okay, because this definitely needs a little bit of flattening right here, which I will do with the plane. So we're good. And then there also might be one of these that's just a tiny bit taller. Let's see here. Yeah, so if I take this one, well, actually, you know what? Hang on. I got to look at this from the front of the machine. This is the front of the machine right here, because there's a logo on the front right there. So that logo, as I knock these things down, will be facing me, which means the machine will go this way. Now, here's the thing about these machines, and this is, yeah, see, that's a little, it opens. There we go. It slides. So this is the peculiarity of these things. These things were cast iron, right? And the measurement on these corners, they're all different. So it's hard to, let me set this in fractions here and show you what I mean. So if typically I'm saying, oh, well, you know, it should be the same thickness on every corner. This corner is 0.30, no, I'm sorry, 302. This corner, 0.279. This corner down here, and this is what I'm getting at, is none of these are exactly the same. This one, 0.277. This one, 0.299. So it's almost impossible, unless you are making one for a specific machine that is always going to live in that base, it's impossible to get the exact size you need, because you never know whose machine is going in there and what the variables are. So basically I make them with these large enough corner pieces, and then, you know what, if they want it, they can stick a little felt piece in the corners. They make little felt dots and stuff, and you can buy them, and you can put a little felt piece in there to raise it up if you need to. So they're always low enough that I know they'll work. But if you need it a little bit higher in one corner because maybe your machine is a little thinner on one corner, you can just use a piece of felt, and people do this all the time. So this is a known thing to the people who work with sewing machines. All right, time 12:40, not bad. The one thing I think I want to do, I've got one that's an outlier, two that are outliers, are these sycamores. They're thinner. Now, they're thinner, but I know that they're thick enough to accommodate this base and still not be an issue, right? But what I have to figure out is how much space do I need to clear? And then how long is that piece going to be? So if I look at one of these, and I'm just going to take like a short side measurement, I'm going to use my little marker here, and I'm just going to see, okay, well, I know that I've got pretty good clearance right here on this one. All right, so I'm going to figure out how deep that is on here. Use my little Craig Market tool, the multi-mark tool. I keep saying it wrong. So I've got 1/4 of an inch of clearance there. What I can then do is bring this machine back over here, get a pencil, make a line. That's 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I made a line inside here. Basically, I just put this inside like this, made a line right underneath it, and I'm going to measure how far down from that line to the bottom of the base goes. And I will use this because this has a very accurate measuring. It has a plunge, so you can plunge this down. So I can plunge this down until it just meets up with that mark. And I'll know exactly how deep to make these corner pieces. So 1.9250 inches, or fractionally 1 and 59/64. Really? 59/64. How about like a little shallower than that? Come on. 15/16. How about 1 and 15/16? That will work for me. So 1 and 15/16, and I'm going to try these. In fact, you know what? I have little blocks here. I could try it out on these if I want to. I could try seeing how this would work. Let me do this. It's kind of hard to do this. There we go. I'm just going to draw a line right here. Okay. And then I'm going to darken this line up. Let me find use my little saddle square here. That fits nicely in there. And what I want to do is go cut this. I'm going to measure it again after I do this. But I'm going to cut this at the saw, and we will see if that is an appropriate. There we go. So I just made a mark in here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll show you this one. So that mark right there, this should be 1 and 15/16. I mean, if I look from right here, it should be exactly the same size. So I actually have all these scraps here, right? So I could take these scraps and go cut them down to that size, and we should be able to tell if that is going to be appropriate for this particular depth of machine base, because it is more shallow than, like, say, all the others. So let me cut this down real quick, and let's give it a shot and see. Let me put this over here, and then, oh, I didn't grab my ears. Let's grab those. And I have to tell you that we're getting into the I don't like to put my fingers that close to the saw blade area, but that looks pretty good. I do like that. All right, I got a couple of longer. I'm going to cut the longer ones. Let me cut one more shorty, and then we will do. I'm going to use these longer ones because they keep my fingers. And then if it fits perfectly, I will go and get a much longer piece of wood. I just don't want to ruin one. I'll use these scraps first, and then we'll go from there. So this one is correct. Oh, here's a long one too. Let me tell you what, here's a long one. Yeah, we'll use this long one right here. Now, it doesn't really matter because where it's not long. See, I like it because it impacts both sides of the backstop here. That's why when I say a long one. There. Okay. Okay, these are not the final ones. These are the ones that I'm using as a test to get these pieces in here. So let's put these in the corners, try them out. And if they are good, then I'll grab one of my other pieces of wood here and we will actually do a good to go one. But let's try it and see. There we go. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, and you can see that even though these other ones are deeper, you don't need that deep of a machine for this to operate. The mechanics of the machine are very shallow on this particular one. And so these are traditionally very thin. I just make them thicker because I think they look better. But they're traditionally very thin. So that's perfect. Now I have to cut them for real. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these and then I'm going to glue them. So I'm going to show you what they look like being glued. I'm going to take maybe this one. This one work? Let me find one that actually fits this piece of wood here. Does this fit? That's too wide. So we use this one. That's perfect. All right, and I think what we'll do is we'll get these cut. Let me get these out of the way because I don't want to get confused. So take my confusing pieces away. I'm going to cut these down. Then we will, actually I need one of them, but we will go ahead and make a, I can't talk right now. We will glue these in. How about that? That's a nice way to put it. We'll go ahead and glue a couple of these in just so you can see what that looks like. It's not hard, but I use special clamping on these, especially like these bases. There's special clamp jigs that I've made for these. So let's go ahead and back over to the saw. Let's get these cut down. Let's get 4 of these made, and then we'll be ready to do a little bit of gluing. I still have more of these to do. I'll do those this weekend. You don't need to watch me do all of them. You kind of have an idea now what the process is. And that was the whole point, was that I want you to see the process. And once you saw the process, then this is just a little longer than that one. There we go. Shit. Pardon my French. You know, it's getting hot in here and I'm getting a little, I'm trying to move things around and things aren't cooperating with me. Why? Why you gotta be this way? It's just a little taller than this one. But I want it to be the exact same size. So let me get this set up here. Dang it. And the funny thing is, I mean, I can tell with my fingertip when it's not perfectly aligned. All right. That should be the right place. Okay. Now I was just thinking, you know, I've got another sycamore base that I need. It's the exact same height. I should check the height with these before I glue these in so that I can see if it's going to work. It should work with that machine as well. All right, here's these. Let's put the machine back in here and see what we've got. And yep, that looks pretty darn good. Let me grab that other sycamore base real quick and check that one. Because I'd like to, if nothing else, like I said, I want to get at least one cut for this base. I want to get at least one cut so that I have something to use as a guide. So let me take these and put them in here real quick and make sure they fit. And if they do, well, then we are cooking with gas. Okay, so get these situated in the corners. You can see this is a very small base because it doesn't have that side compartment. So a very simple base. There we go. But very lovely. That's all there is to it. All right, this is perfect sizing. I'm going to go ahead and cut down some more using, I'm going to use this piece of oak. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's like I said, it's a light colored wood with a light colored wood. That's basically what you're after. So let me get one of these as a setup block, and then we will, I'll get that cut, and then we can do some gluing and I can show you what that looks like. Because everybody wants to see gluing, right? Gluing is so exciting. Is there anybody here anyway? I apologize. Let me turn the computer on just to make sure. Oh my gosh, they're all here again. You guys, you sneak in on me. I wish I had some way to actually know when you were here. I really wish I did. Time to use metric. Am I using metric? Metric? Come on, metric. Metric is like what I learned in the 8th grade or the 7th grade or something, because it was going to take over the world. And then you know what happened? Well, the United States decided, nope, it's not going to take over the world. At least not our corner of it. So no, I still have to use imperial measurements, like, you know, inches and stuff. I do have some metric stuff. Like I use metric tools as well, but not so much. I apologize, I didn't see you guys. Hopefully you saw me putting the machine in the base here so that you could see what I'm making, because that's what I'm making is sewing machine bases. These are 3/4 size machines. I think this one fits here. So this is a 3/4 size sewing machine. It's a really small one. And these are actually really prevalent over in like the UK and stuff. A lot of places didn't have electricity till much later on, farmhouses and things like that. So they use these, or hand cranks, right? So we've got a little handle on the back. You can hand crank them, sew with them. Handy to have, store them in a cabinet. Problem is a lot of these are really old. They're from the late 1800s to early mid 1900s, and a lot of the bases that they used to have with them have started to fall apart. So I make replacement bases for them. But it's basically a box. I mean, you know, I try to make them fancy, and I put, you know, lids on them and do things like that. And sometimes I make them out of things like walnut, and I do engravings and carvings in them and stuff, but it's a box. It's just a box. Chat pause due to what? Oh, I might scroll here. So now, hopefully, Free Fall Clash, you know what I'm making now. Does that make sense? Hopefully, if you're still here, you may have like abandoned. It's like, I think this is like, is this the crowd? If there's anybody still in here, are you the crowd that watches the gentleman do his metal finding? Because I've watched some of his stuff. It's very cool. I don't know how he does that from like I guess he does it all from his phone. I'm a little bit more set up than that. So like I've got a wireless mic and all kinds of stuff going on here, 4 cameras, and yet I still can't keep track of my chat. So it's very frustrating for you all, I know. Okay. Sorry, I had to get one of those cuts so that I had the right size on there. Because now what I'm going to do, I can't remember which one I put in. Oh, now what I'm going to do is I got to glue these in because they get glued into the corner. So you don't want them to be just kind of like hanging out there. They need to be glued in. Let me go back in the chat for a minute here. Wow, God, you guys have been here for freaking ever. Oh, I am so sorry that I did not see this. Party of 54. Performing Nerd rated my party. Performing Nerd, you're probably gone now, but thank you for rating. I really appreciate that. That is so awesome of you guys. This is what is the coolest thing about Twitch. It doesn't happen. I also simulcast stream on Facebook and YouTube. There are no raids from those channels. It doesn't happen. So this is a Twitch thing, and it's really cool when it happens. So thank you for doing that. And I think you may all be gone because I can't see. Yeah, there's 0 people here. But there were a bunch of people here and they were all asking questions and stuff. And I wish I could have seen this more. I would have talked to you guys a lot more. But unfortunately, I was cutting wood. And when I'm cutting wood, I'm not paying attention to the chat. It's just, you know, it's a safety thing. So anyway, thanks for the raid. I really appreciate it. I will stop by, where was it? There was the raid, Performing Nerd. I will stop by and find your page and thank you for the, actually, let me do one thing here. I'm gonna go open another window. .tv. I'm opening another Twitch window here. And I'm gonna see if I can find Performing Raid, or Performing Raid. What was that, Performing Nerd? Is that what that was? Who did that? Performing Nerd. So let's see if I can find Performing Nerd. Performing Nerd. Let's pull that up. So, that's awesome. I'm going to give him a follow right now. He's not live, but that was awesome of him to do that. I don't know if he has any other. Let me check out his actual channel and his about. Because if he has, oh, he's in the raid. He's like pushing people to mine. I want to see if he has anything in his about for his, there it is. There's his Twitter. So I'm going to go to his Twitter page. And I don't know who I'm logged in as here. I'm not logged in. Let me log in. Looks like he does Rubik's Cube stuff. I don't know. I don't want Geezer Gamer. I want another one. I want Jared's Wood Shop. That's who I want. Touch ID. Logging in. Because I'm going to thank him right now because I will forget. So I'm going to thank him right now for the raid because that was super awesome. So I'm going to just send him a little message. And let me type my message here. Thanks so much for the raid today. It's what makes Twitch so good. And then cheers. Boom. There we go. Send him a nice message because you know what? I really appreciate when people take the time to do that. UK people, y'all are awesome, man. I don't get a lot of US raids. Anyway, all right. Let me get back to the basics here of this, right? I need to make these bases. So I'm going to actually do 2 different styles of glue ups here. So give me just a second here. I'm going to grab some brackets that I've got for doing this. So I need 2 of my long brackets. I need corners. You all can't see what I'm doing, but that's okay. I will be back in just a second. I have to, 1, 2, okay, so hang on a second. I'll have to grab more of them, but I only have so much room in my hands. So I use these little glue up brackets. I need 2 more, and then I'll show you how I glue these into the corners. This works really well, and I find it is one of the most secure ways to glue something in a corner because these are triangular. Getting support for your glue up is really important in terms of getting adequate pressure across the face of the wood. So first of all, I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to take these 4 out because I measured these. I know these all fit in this particular base. Let me go back to my Twitch stream just in case there's anybody pops in. I doubt they will. All right. Oh, hey, did they come back? They came back. I think they came back. I think everybody's there now. Everybody's here now. I'm just looking at one of the questions. I was talking about why I'm not using metric. Woodworkers don't use metric, at least not here in the States. It's almost all imperial measurement. Now, I have like mountain bikes, and everything I do on my mountain bike is, yeah, it's all metric. Everything is, 5 millimeter and 7 and 3 millimeters, and all the nuts and bolts are all metric. When you're doing woodworking stuff, you will find very few people, at least here in the States, who do anything metric. It's just not a thing. So I try. Sometimes I will tell you that, metric is, obviously it's easier because it's like power 10, right? So everything's base 10. It's really easy to do. But I can actually get more precise. Like I can go 64th of an inch, which is a lot less than a millimeter. So if I really need to get that way, 32nd of an inch. So I can go a little thinner than a millimeter if I need to. But yeah, I don't disagree. It is an easy way to do things. It's just that's not how we do things here. So in fact, it was funny. We were doing something for a property that is in another country, and we were trying to measure. We're going to have some cabinets made for it, and like all the people who are doing the work, they're all in metric. So I had to actually go out and buy a tape measure that actually had imperial and metric on it, because every single one, and I probably have 10 tape measures around my house, and they're all in inches and feet. So, but I get it when you're trying to do things, collaborate, coordinate with people who are on the other side of the pond. It's it's a lot easier to deal in a common language. So, all right, so these are the corner supports. They're all good to go. In case you didn't see, this is a hand crank, very old, antique Singer sewing machine. This is, I think, is a 99. They actually make there's a 99K version, which is what you would find in the UK. So, but it's really easy to use. This is my daughter's. She's 10, and this is hers. So she sews with it. It's very cool. I am not the sewer. My wife is the sewing machine person, but I make the bases for them. What's the serial number on this one? The serial number on this one is G as in golf 4728720. So I'm not sure what the age on that would be. You can look it up at the Singer serial number lookup page. They actually have it's crazy. You can go in there and find out, the age of all your sewing machines and your Singer machines. They have them dating back. The thing is, they made millions of these things, and they kept Singer at least kept really pretty good records. So you can go back and find the serial numbers of these pretty easily. No, these are not commissions. So I make these and sell them on my Facebook page, and I have an Etsy shop. So I sell them in both places. But so for anybody who's on Facebook or YouTube who's watching, they asked if I commissioned these. But oh, 1910, cool. Yeah, and most of these I find were made from the late 1800s through the early to mid 1900s, or at least the small ones that I've got. I make them, normally I make these for much larger machines. So like your 66, your 201, your 115, your 15s. Those are what I call the standards. I think this is like an old 115 here. I use this as my go-to for measuring when I'm working the shop. But my wife is a collector, and she loves the old machines. She restores them. She got her great-grandmother's Davis treadle sewing machine, and she fell in love with it. And she took it to a shop and got it fixed and repaired and restored and stuff. And that kind of got her into it. And then she started accumulating because it's a thing. And so, but she's really into cleaning and restoring them. She sews with them all the time. And so she said, you know, if you're going to be out in your shop making stuff and you want to make stuff people will buy, she says, you should make bases because people need replacement bases or display bases for their machines. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I could do that. And she had machines sitting around that I could actually use as measurement templates and stuff. And she had a couple of bases that she had purchased that someone had made. The gentleman's no longer alive, but anyway, so I started making these. And the thing is, there's not a lot of people who make these. And there's a lot of people using vintage machines. In fact, there's one of the forums she's in on Facebook, I think it started off with, when she joined it, it had a few hundred people. It now has over 25,000 people in this forum, in this group. So it's a huge thing. And so her whole thing is she's like super dedicated to, you know, preserving the machines and making them sewable, not doing like a whole, you know, strip them down to bare metal kind of thing, but make them, you know, bring them back to life. And these things are built like tanks. I mean, you don't buy machines like this now. So you bought a 3/4 a couple of weeks back and you need to re-glue the corner piece. So yeah. And that's what happens to a lot of these old bases, is that, you know, and they use hide glue and stuff like that when they were making them. So, I mean, you get 100 years out of a glued up box. That's pretty good, in my opinion. But a lot of them just haven't survived over the years. And so that's why I make these replacements. I do kind of a cool little thing where you can see I do the Singer logo in the front. I do that on my CNC machine. So they look really pretty. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've gotten into, is making these things. I mean, I make a lot of other things, but this is how I pay for my toys and my tools is by making these. And it's fun. And my son, who's in his 20s now, but he's like a whole gamer and stuff, and he's like, you should stream this on Twitch. And I was like, who's gonna come in here and watch this stuff? But anyway, well, thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you have to leave, but I understand life goes on, but I really appreciate you coming. Where are you from, by the way? You didn't say. I've had a lot of UK visitors, so I was just curious if you were in the UK. Yep, there you go. So it's it's getting to be close to evening time there. So it's right about my lunchtime. So you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you want to stop back and check out what's going on, I will be back here on Monday. So thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. And for everybody who crashed my stream today, I really appreciate it. It was, like I said, that's really a Twitch thing. You don't get raids from YouTube and Facebook. It doesn't happen. So let me get this glued in really quick. What I'm going to do here for anybody who's left watching is I'm going to give you a different camera angle here. So I've got the 4 corners set in here. These corners are, as you see me put the machine in there, these are the load bearing portions. They're gonna support the weight of that machine. So they get glued on the face grain of each of these corners. And in order to get a really good glue joint, what I do is clamp them in using clamping cauls, clamping jigs. The hard part is these boxes right here because they've got a storage. So for these, I just have a piece of wood that has a little notch cut in it, right? I put that over here like this, and then I can clamp straight across, and that puts pressure on that triangular piece of wood, forces it in there, and gets a really good solid glue joint. Problem is over here, I've got this base or this extension to the base right here. I can't use those. So what I did was I came up with something like this little L-shaped piece, put that back here. Then I've got little notches here cut into it, and I can come across, use one of those notches and glue it that way and get that. Because you need the clamping pressure. You can't just put it in there and leave it like that and expect to have a really good glue joint. So you really have to get some clamping pressure in there. All right, so you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little glue on here and show you how this works. Doesn't take a lot. That's the one thing, people tend to over glue, and you don't need a ton of glue. You don't, especially on these, I don't want a ton of squeeze out. So I want to get the wood wet with glue to the point where it's going to be fully covered, but not squeezing out all over the place. Then set it in there and make sure it's nice and flush in the corner. And then I'm going to go grab a paper towel because, well, I don't want to get glue all over the rest of the base. And I've got it on my finger. But I do find my finger is the best glue spreader. Just tends to work that way. Then I'll take a clamp and I'm going to just clamp right across. Says a lot of viewers are looking to interact. So yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting. I get people who are following my page, like I have a woodworking page and stuff on Facebook. But you know, I think live streaming on Facebook and YouTube is still a new thing. So there's just not as many people doing that. And I don't think there's really, at least in this area, this arena, there's really not a lot of people live streaming woodworking, because I can tell you that it's kind of a pain. I mean, I've gone through all the steps to do it the right way. So I have cameras set up to monitor like all my different tools and stuff that I'm doing, and I still have to end up moving them around and such. But I think you really need that because otherwise you kind of miss out. Fingers and CA glue do not mix. No, they do not. There's my CA glue. I've already used that, and I've got the Instant Bond accelerator. So usually when I use CA, I try to spray the outside of it with the Instant Bond. And that way, at least the outside will not stick to my fingers. But no, CA is, I respect CA glue because I don't like to be stuck on things. It is, you know, the funny thing with CA, it doesn't want to instantly bond on your wood, but it will instantly bond on your fingers, without a doubt. But no, I just generally use the good Lord's glue spreader right there, and it does okay for me. All right, get that one set in the corner. Now, I mean, I can use this instead of getting rid of this glue. I can actually put glue on these and get them spread into the corners and then come back and clamp them. I don't have to do it all like this. So I do need more glue though. This is Type Bond Type 2, which is what I use for almost all of my woodworking stuff. I've got some other stuff like some Gorilla Glue and stuff, but usually Type Bond, like yellow glue, is what I use for most stuff. And I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm gonna clamp these down, but it doesn't hurt if I get the glue on there and get them set in the corners, because there's a couple of minutes of setup time for this glue anyway. Oh, you just thought it was a recording at first? Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes in. I mean, I have a wireless microphone so that my audio stays consistent as I move around. I actually have noise canceling filters going on so that you don't have to listen to extremely loud power tools. I've got the multiple cameras set in with the channel switcher, and running a computer over the side, which, by the way, none of this stuff likes being in a dusty environment. So it's challenging, but I'm kind of a techno nerd kind of guy. So, you know, for me, it was fun. I think that's the big difference with doing the live stream thing. And people are so used to seeing finished content that they don't really understand what goes into making that finished content. Because there's a lot of work when you're watching a woodworking tutorial or something. There is so much that goes in and so much that ends up on the editing floor that you're not seeing. And that's not the case with this. You get to see all of the ugliness. So, but I mean, this is what I do when I'm making a project. Now I'm gonna have to get a different one. Hang on a second. This one was cut for one of my larger bases, and I can't quite get the glue up in the place I need. So hang on a second. Let me grab a different one that has more notches cut in it. I think, maybe. Let's try this one. Oh! All right, let me try this one. I think this one's actually a little better. I mean, it doesn't have to be the tightest grip in the world, but I do want pressure on that piece of wood. That's gonna slip off. Stop it. Like I said, this is the hard, there we go, there's a good one right there. This is the hard part, is clamping pressure on these two internal ones, because you've got all this space behind. That's where these little L-shaped things have come in handy. The rest of them are really simple because it's just basically blocks of wood with a V cut in it. So there's a little V notch cut in there. And I just put one of those on the opposite side of the block and then put a clamp on it. So that's pretty easy. And then the other thing is to just make sure that it's not, as you're tightening the clamp, make sure it's not sliding up the piece of wood. So they should all be touching the bottom there. All right, and that is corners glued in. And I usually let these sit for at least a few hours. Probably a lot longer than I need to, but my thought is that, you know, nobody ever had a glue joint fail because they left it too long. Too short, maybe, not too long. But that's kind of the way it looks like when it's done. It just sits in there and applies pressure to those corners. And I can tell you that I've never had one of those corners fail. And they hold machines that weigh anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. So they do a pretty good job. Speaking of CA glue, I had to CA this because it has a knot in it, and I wanted to secure that. So I'm going to use these to make the corner pieces for these walnut bases down here. So I have two of them, and I can just get 3 bases worth of corners out of that. But I have another one of these that do I have extra corners? Yeah. So for these particular bases, these are really simple. I just need these little corner pieces. I have a whole bunch of these cut out. And the big thing to remember when if you make anything like this, is you want to use the long grain this way, not this way, so that they don't snap. So they've got strength going across them. That's my little helpful tip for the day. I do need 4 more clamps here. So let me grab 4 more of those. And You're going to take off on me. Everybody's taking off. It's the evening time there where most people are, I understand. So absolutely, go live your life, do your thing. Thank you for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's some days it's crickets in here. So I love the fact when people come and do a raid on me and stuff. And if you hit the follow, if you want to come back, I do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, US. So I'm here. I'm actually going to go to the lumber yard, my hardwood dealer. I'm thinking tomorrow or next week, like next Tuesday. If I do that, I'm going to record that, which I would probably show on stream because people are always asking me where I get my wood and saying I get it from a hardwood place. It doesn't really help a lot of times because they're like, okay, I don't know what that means. And it's like, well, it's a store with big giant pieces of wood in it. But if I can go grab some video, I think that would give folks an idea of the environment that I'm in to get my stuff. And they're all different. My local one, sadly, closed down, I think a couple of years ago almost now, which really made me sad because it was only like 10 minutes from my house. And made it really super convenient. They weren't the cheapest, but it was super convenient to go buy lumber. And the place I go to now is about 45 minutes away on a good day. Usually if I go midweek, there's no traffic or anything, so I don't have to fight with the crowds. And it's pretty quiet in the shop. But this guy carries a pretty good selection of stuff. Most of what I buy is oak and walnut, and I buy a lot of cherry. Cherry is probably my #1 go-to wood for making these bases. Right now, you're seeing different species like the sycamore and the walnut and stuff because I kind of ran out of wood. I'm using the last of my wood stores here. I'm really curious to see how expensive it's going to be when I go back to buy more, because as I think most people are aware, like lumber prices, at least here in the States, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but lumber prices have gone through the roof. And I think a lot of that's construction lumber though, like 2x4s, things like that. Because of new home buying and the demand, like home prices are through the roof here, and the real estate market is nuts, and there's a shortage of housing, and so they're trying to build more houses because the builders and such now are back in business and they're trying to build stuff, but there has been a shortage of people actually milling wood and such because of COVID. So 1, 2, I got them all in. Is that in? Yep. All right, that was the last one. But anyway, I'm curious to see if my hardwood prices have gone up. I know that I used to build a lot of stuff out of white oak, especially quarter-sawn white oak. And those prices, just for whatever reason, that used to be one of the cheaper woods. And it is now like, it's priced like walnut almost, which is really crazy. Walnut has always been sort of high priced because it's one of those very valued woods, and it's beautiful, and makes beautiful furniture and everything else. So I get that, but just oak is just like, yeah. Red oak is still pretty reasonable, and red oak is very prevalent in these areas, but a lot of people prefer white oak just because the grain's a little different. And oh, hang on, you are not all the way on the bottom. Stop it. There it is. You got to make sure these are all the way down. Sometimes when you put the clamps on, it tends to squeeze them up a little bit, and that would be bad. White oak, especially people who make cabinets and things like that, they really like to have white oak for those. But so it was always a little bit more than regular, like regular sawn oak. Quarter sawn's always been a little bit more expensive. It's harder for them to cut quarter sawn, because they have to flip the logs more and such, and your yields aren't as huge as they are with flat sawn lumber. Flat sawn, they just cut slices off the log and they're done with it. And then the ones, the pieces that are on the side of the pith or the middle, those are your quarter saws. And it was like, okay, but if they want more quarter sawn, they have to flip the log a lot more. And so it can be more expensive for them. And the boards are not as wide either. So quarter sawn's always been a little bit more expensive. But the place I go to doesn't sell quarter sawn white oak. They sell quarter sawn red oak, excuse me, which is what this is, but they do not sell quarter sawn white oak. All right, so that's a regular one right there. You can see that it's nice and easy. Just put the corner clamps on there and that's it. So I let these sit, what is it? Oh God, 84 degrees in my garage right now. And I don't know what that is in Celsius, but I can tell you it is quite warm. Let's see here. I'm curious. Let's see. Temperature. Let's look here. Temperature. 84 degrees Fahrenheit is it's not that hot. It's only 28.8 degrees Celsius in my shop right now. I'm schwitzing. Okay, I'm gonna go get some lunch. I'm gonna put a pin in it for the day. I'm gonna finish this gluing stuff and cutting more stuff and everything else this weekend. So you will not be watching that, but all of these corners will be glued in. Next week, I will be rounding off the corners of these things because he's got a huge round over on all the corners. Then we'll be kind of cleaning up the tops and doing some final sanding, and these things are ready for finishing. So we've just kind of been blowing through these things really quick, and it's been really, really cool. It kind of keeps me on schedule, so it's kind of nice. All right. I haven't even looked at my other windows. I doubt I've had anybody. Let's check. Facebook, anybody there? Anybody on Facebook? No. How about YouTube? Anybody on YouTube? No. I mean, there's been people watching, but no comments. So thank you to all my Twitch friends who've stopped in and said hi and spent some time with me out of your day. I appreciate that. I mean, everybody's time is valuable. So the fact that you spent some with me is very much appreciated. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, as well as, hang on, how about a better view? There we go. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. If you can get your shot for COVID, please do. We're never going to get past this if people don't follow through. So get your shots. I've had mine. Stay safe, wash your hands, do all that good stuff. Take care of each other. And come back and see me on Monday because I love it. So take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. See ya.